Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome back to my channel. So, a lot of times when I get messages on Instagram, a vast majority of them are of people that are just now bringing their animals home. Usually it's bearded dragons, and they have questions or concerns, or they are just worried about their little critters. So I thought that I would make a video about bringing home your new bearded dragon and what you can expect in that first week. We're going to talk about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and what you should have already done in preparation for bringing them home. This video is sponsored by the Doobia Dude, so make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out how you can save 10% off of your entire order at theDoobiaDude.com. Without any further ado, let's just quickly jump right into the video. First of all, because it is super important, let's go ahead and jump right into what you shouldn't be doing. The very first thing we're going to talk about is cohabbing. The reason that this is the very first thing on the list is because when you go to a pet store, no matter if it is a chain pet store or a local pet store, most of the time those little baby bearded dragons are going to be cohabbed. That means that they are all in a tank together. So a lot of times people think that it is perfectly okay to buy 2 or 3 of those baby bearded dragons and bring them home and put them all together because they were being kept together at the store. This is not okay, especially for bearded dragons, because as bearded dragons get older especially, they get territorial and they get aggressive towards one another. You may look at your bearded dragons that are cohabbed and think that it's super cute, that they are cuddling, that they are laying on top of each other. Actually, what's happening is they are fighting for resources. When 2 bearded dragons lay on top of each other, the one on top is the one getting all of that sunlight. That's the one getting all of the heat from the basking bowl, and they will do this over food. The fastest, most aggressive one is going to get all the salad, all the bugs. They're going to get all of the resources, and over time, you're going to notice that the more dominant bearded dragon is healthy and he's getting big, and the non-dominant bearded dragon is going to look skinny and frail, and they're going to start developing things like metabolic bone disease, and that is just not okay, and they don't tell you that at most pet stores. So biggest thing on the list, just because they are in a tank together at the store doesn't mean that that is an acceptable way for them to live their lives. Handling them is another thing that should not be done in the first week, especially in those first few days, and that's because moving anything is stressful, and you are taking a bearded dragon, whether it be a baby or an adult that you got rehomed, they are moving. They're moving their home. A lot of times they are moving into brand new tanks. They don't know you and they don't know anything about what's going on, and it's stressful. Their feeding schedule is changing, the sounds and smells and everything is changing, and they're not used to that. So handling them during that first week is pretty off limits, just to help them not be stressed out and to help them transition more. And I know it's very hard because you just got this adorable little thing and you want so bad to spoil it, but you're gonna have years to do that. Just let them settle in themselves in that first week, and you can start bonding with them. Along those same lines of stress, don't mess with their enclosure. So don't reach in their tank and decide that you want that hide here or you actually want this plant here. In that first week, they're already adjusting to everything, and if you're constantly reaching in and changing things up, then they're still having to constantly learn new things that are happening around them. In the future, changing things is gonna be okay. It's gonna be a wonderful form of enrichment for them, but let them get settled into their home first before you start making additional changes. And that leads us into the next category of already having the setup done. This is something that should already be done before you get your animal. This, again, leading back to that last one, having everything set up like you want it to be is going to be helpful because you're not going to be reaching in and rearranging things and causing them additional stress as soon as you get them. But also already having everything set up is going to ensure the lighting is correct, that the temperatures are correct. You like how everything looks, that there is a hot side and a cool side. It's going to make sure that everything is good good before you get them home, and so that way you can bring them home and stick them in and just leave them alone. That takes off stress, and you're not panicking because the temperature's only getting to 85 and you thought that it was going to get to the 100 degrees that it's supposed to be at. It just alleviates all that stress for you and that animal. So make sure you have everything set up and ready to go before you bring your animal home. The one thing that you do need to do, though, in terms of that setup that's already set up, is make sure that you are spot cleaning it daily. So when they go to the bathroom, make sure that you are cleaning that up. You don't have to handle them to clean that up, but make sure that you are cleaning it. That is necessary throughout the entirety of the dragon's life to help to prevent things like parasites, but it also is going to help in that first week just get them used to your hand, your smell, the sounds you make when the tank opens. It's going to help them get used to all of that initially without touching them. So that's also going to help with that transition of them getting used to you. Next, we're going to talk about some stress behaviors. These are things that can be very normal, especially in this first week, and these are just things that show you that your bearded dragon is stressed out, and most of the time these are happening because it is their first week with you and they aren't used to you. So the biggest one is going to be hiding. If you walk into a room and they leap into their hide, it's because they're scared, and that is not something to panic about right off the bat. That is just something that happens because they're babies and they're scared. Even adults in new surroundings will do this same thing sometimes. This also can be them being skittish. Again, when you walk by, they take off running or they take off to hide. That is just because they are scared and stressed out from everything new that is going on. As I'm editing, I realized that I somehow managed to forget these two important ones. The first one is stress lines and a dark beard. In this video, Zaz was stressed out because she had literally just woken up and hadn't eaten yet, and she's always super grumpy in the mornings. But with babies and new bearded dragons, they might have these lines and a dark beard like this all day, every day for the first few days, and that is completely normal. Also, waving is another one. When a bearded dragon is waving at you, it is them telling you that they know that you are the dominant one. They are telling you that they are scared. So if you reach in to pet them, maybe during the end of the first week, beginning of the second week, and they start waving at you like that, that means that they're scared and you need to back off. If you bring your bearded dragon home and they don't eat that first day, that's okay. Because for them, they are putting themselves in a vulnerable state when they are coming out into the open and eating, especially if their food bowl's at the back and they are turning their back to you. So if they don't eat for that first day or two, then don't panic. That's just because they are stressed out with their new environment and there is way too much going on for them to even think about eating. Of course, if this is a long-term thing and your bearded dragon isn't eating for a long time, then it is a huge cause of concern. Most of the time, bearded dragons are really good about this, and they might not eat for the first day or two, but usually they kick back into that eating habit very quickly. But like I said, if they don't for a few days, that can be perfectly normal because of the stress. And the last one of these common stressful behaviors is glass surfing. Glass surfing is when your bearded dragon is running back and forth across the glass, and it kind of looks like they are surfing on the glass. Usually that is done because they are stressed out, and they could be stressed out because of the enclosure that they're in, because they can see light coming in, because they hear a sound that they don't like, because there's movement around they don't like, which all of these things are going to be things that they don't like in the beginning because they are new. So in those first few days, glass surfing is perfectly okay, and it's just them being stressed out from all of the new things that are happening. Of course, if any of these behaviors go on past the first week and they're accompanied by other things like your bearded dragon losing weight or having bloody stools or anything like that that is concerning, then you need to take them to a vet because it could be a sign of another problem. But these things just happening one at a time in those first few days is usually completely normal. So from not eating, let's go into feeding these guys in that first week. At this point that you have your bearded dragon home, you should know the difference between the diet of a baby bearded dragon and the diet of an adult bearded dragon. So make sure that you are still feeding them appropriately for their age in that first week. Just because they don't eat the salad, make sure you're still putting that in there every day. They have to have it and they should have access to it. And putting your hands in and out of the tank is going to help them get used to you being there. During this time, especially, make sure you are taking out any leftover feeder bugs, because leftover feeder bugs in a tank can bite at your bearded dragon. They make noise, especially if they get stuck in a corner, and they are another thing that is going to be super stressful. So make sure you are pulling any leftover bugs out that your bearded dragon isn't eating. And towards the end of the first week, if your bearded dragon is eating properly and they aren't skittish and they aren't showing those stressful behaviors, and you putting your hand into that tank isn't causing them to spiral into a panic, then towards the end of that first week, you can actually start handling them slowly. We're not talking taking them out of the tank for hours and hours on end, but just reaching in and maybe picking them up for a few minutes and putting them down, things like that. But at that point, those are the things you're going to want to look for before you start handling them, is for them not to be stressed out and them to be eating, all of that good stuff. I have found that feeding is a very important part of bonding with that bearded dragon and getting them comfortable with you very fast. Again, wouldn't try this in the first couple days, but towards the end of that first week, you can start hand feeding your bearded dragon if they will take it. Your bearded dragon taking food from you is going to help immensely with them bonding with you and with them starting to trust you. And it's going to usually speed that whole process up of them letting you handle them, because they are going to see you as a source of food and they are going to quickly associate you with something that's not going to hurt them. Food is such an important tool in bonding with reptiles. And I want to very quickly touch also on shedding, because again, most of the questions that I get are about little baby bearded dragons that people are bringing home for the first time. In that first week, if your bearded dragon starts to shed, which I think mine did within the first week of me bringing her home, it's okay, don't panic. Baby bearded dragons shed a lot, and being stressed out sometimes will kick their bodies into shedding. So that is perfectly okay, perfectly normal. Just wanted to quickly touch on this because most reptiles are going to shed all in one piece, and bearded dragons do not do that. Bearded dragons are going to shed different body parts all at different times. So one day their head might shed, the next day their body might shed, and the next day their legs might shed. It all happens one piece at a time, and as adults this process takes even longer. They can spend a week shedding that body and then another week shedding their right legs. It's going to take time. So as a new bearded dragon owner, I just wanted to quickly touch on that. Don't panic if only a piece of your bearded dragon is shedding. That is perfectly normal, perfectly okay. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on very quickly was parasite testing. This is not something that is 100% necessary for everyone all the time, but I do like to take any new animal that I get. I like to take a fecal sample into the vet to get it tested for parasites as soon as I get them. And the reason that I do that is because having them tested at first lets you know that they are starting out with a clean bill of health. So if you take your bearded dragon's fecal sample in to get tested and it comes back clean for parasites, then when they don't eat for 3 days, you're not going to panic thinking that they have parasites because you already know that they don't. Or if you get them and you know that they come from a chain pet store that didn't take good care of them, or if you're getting them off of Craigslist from someone that wasn't taking care of them, you can go ahead and treat them, and then you know that they are healthy so that you can carry on with taking care of them and bonding with them. Super important. If you get a bearded dragon and it has parasites and you're sitting around and waiting for them to eat for a week and they're not, and they start to lose weight, that becomes a very scary situation very fast. So this is just something that I like to do when I get new animals, and if you can, I do suggest you do that. Take that fecal sample in and get it tested for parasites as soon as you get them, just to ease stress and to make that whole process so much easier to go through. And that is it. That is all of the do's and don'ts that I have for your bearded dragon's first week at home. Basically, the too long didn't read version of this is just leave them alone. Feed them, clean up after them, and leave them alone. And then the next week you can start bonding with them and spending time with them and all of that stuff. But just let them de-stress and just leave them alone. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by the Dubia Dude. The Dubia Dude is such a wonderful place to get dubia roaches for all of your reptiles and especially bearded dragons, since that is what we are talking about. Dubia roaches are super nutritious feeders. They are super high in protein. They are very clean. Crickets are prone to carrying parasites, which bearded dragons are prone to getting, and dubia roaches just aren't as prone to carrying those parasites. They also live a lot longer than crickets do, and they are more filling and more nutritious than crickets are, so you have to feed less to make your bearded dragon more full. The Dubia Dude feeds his dubia roaches all organic, so you know that you are getting super healthy, nutritious feeders for your bearded dragon, which is awesome. Make sure to use my code Elle at thedubiadude.com to save 10% off of your entire order. Thank you so much to the Dubia Dude for sponsoring this video. As always, guys, if you are not already, please feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday. This week's Instagram shout out goes to Pink's Not Well for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole lot of stuff. Thank you so much. You are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. Sunlight, all of that basking heat is the one getting all of those Can you guys hear that weed eater? Weed whacker? Weed eater? Weed whacker. That the 100% necessary, but something, we'll do shedding first.